So guys, next on the agenda we have a swimming teacher called Robert Hamilton. He's one of the best swimming teachers in Scotland. He's trained all over the world and he specialises in a kind of swim teaching called total immersion. Let's go have a chat.
Rob, absolute pleasure to meet you. So the first thing I'd like to talk to you about is this thing called total immersion.
So total immersion originates from New Paltz in New York, and it was Terry Laughlin who devised up the methodology, and a lot of it came down to him actually slowing down when he was swimming competitively and then starting to get quite a lot of injuries, and devised up a methodology that would allow for free movement around the rotator cuff and a much easier pathway for people to learn to swim, but also then progress on and develop their strokes. At the moment we're in the process of pulling together a learn to swim programme, so it can be developed right from about 5 years old. But at the moment it's been centred around adults, just because that's where Terry's came from in terms of his own personal achievements.
What kind of stages of progression and components does it incorporate? Are you able to develop on that a little bit more?
So it still works on the same principles of BLAPT. However, what we do is we look at the articulation around the joints that are slightly different. So where we may lift the elbow to come out the water and rotation of the arms, we're actually taking the arm away from the centre of the body and actually in a wider arc, and that's more complementary to articulation around the joints. It can be used for open water as well, and I've got a lot of swimmers that do open water back home, and that's the technique that I've been training them with. What you do benefit from is a longer term continuation. So we had a swimmer just a few weeks ago that swam 41k. She was doing total immersion stroke and she was in the water for 18 hours. So there's a lot of, if the physicality of a normal competitive stroke, very similar to Mark Foster, there's a lot of energy goes behind that, whereas this is consuming energy and retaining it and using it for a longer period of time. And the thing that you find is that if you play on that effortless endurance, you actually benefit from more buoyancy because you're using the water for its properties rather than kind of fighting against it.
What I'd also like to ask you about is your personal journey to swim teaching. How did it all come about for you?
So it just, unfortunately, it happened through a car crash, and I was told that if I crashed the car I would lose my job, which I did. I then took a walk for 7 miles. This was when I was 23, 24, and worked out at that point I needed to be on leisure, but I had no idea how, and walked into the local leisure centre and asked for his job. I had no idea what his title was, and that was a lifeguard, and within 6 months I was teaching swimming. And at that time I didn't know anything about swim teaching, and it just happened that there was a young boy who had multi-complex disabilities. We managed to get him to swim in 6 weeks.
I've been swimming teaching for 10 years. I started when I was 16. And, I worked in your leisure centres, your Virgin Actives, your David Lloyd's. Most recently, I've been working in Chelsea and Kensington. I've just got back from Mallorca. I had an autistic boy and a boy that was born with club feet. So as a swimming teacher, quite a challenge I had on my hands.
I actually went out to the States for 2 years to learn how to teach swimming to children with Tourette's, autism, and then I also worked in a special needs school for a year back here in Glasgow, just to learn more of their kind of habits. But I'm now, I look after a Paralympian swimmer who was silver medalist in Rio, kind of looking after her just now and developing her programme for her, and I coached her when she was 9 or 10, so I've got a kind of big broad brace of physical disabilities. Spent a long time, and I've kind of devoted my life, just very similar to the way Mark was speaking this morning, is you kind of put yourself in the middle of the world of swimming, and I've developed all the skills that I think are necessary to be able to complement people's learning, and I always question why we do things. I'm never ever satisfied with one answer. We need to question more about what we do so that we can learn more of the physical capabilities that people have and the restrictions that they have, and that kind of develops you as an individual. This year I've spent quite a lot of time doing long distance swims, so we've been now training people to do 36, 39 and 41k. And next week I've got a girl swimming Loch Ness at 39k.
Tell us a little bit more about how you went from being employed to running your own business.
Yeah, so I worked within a local authority programme, took the programme from 193 to 670 in 2 years. Felt as if I had all the tools to be able to manage a programme, which I think was the most important part of it. And then I built up a programme to have 875 a week within myself, within 5 years of setting up on my own. I think the thing that I became very quickly aware of is that the main point was to make sure it was a premium product. The people will look for premium products and they will pay for premium products, but you need to know what that is before you would go any further. And I took every single individual as an individual, regardless of whether it was in a one-to-one or in a group. So they progressed naturally through their own developmental stages rather than trying to force them through something that they weren't able of doing. Bringing the class numbers down to small numbers, but also then coming into the water. And I spent quite a long number of years back in the early 90s working out how to use noodles. Kickboards, I actually did it myself, so then I could work out the balance points. But there's a standard way in how I think we should approach aids. And if you take the competitive model, we almost surf on the surface. Whereas if you connect to the still water that lies below the surface, then you'll be more balanced, which means then it becomes easier. And if you think of the adults, they get a more structured lesson, but they feel balanced in themselves, so they can actually try more. The balance, streamline, and the propulsion is all connected. And if we don't do one before the other, then we do not give the clients what's required in terms of understanding of where they need to be while they're swimming. And this idea of sending them from one side of the pool to the other side, just getting them to move their arms and their legs, defeats the purpose of teaching.
As your business evolves, I'm assuming that you came out of the water. How important do you think it is as a business owner to continue and stay on top of your teaching, even if it's once a week?
What I did was I was working 7 days a week, as I still do, but I now work 7 days a week doing something totally different. I donated in my time 2 days a week where I would spend time in the office, and I would give another member of staff that opportunity of being able to cover the hours in the pool. And I think it's very important if you're running a business on your own is to think about the 40 hours that you would be working if you were working a full-time job. And if you balance that 40 hours out across the course of the week, you can actually achieve quite a lot. So I would religiously get up at 9 o'clock in the morning and I would work to 5 o'clock at night. On the Monday and the Friday I would do administration, but then I would also then go and work with the instructors so that they knew. And it was not about adopting my style of teaching, because I think each individual has their own skill and own pattern, but what they do need is to have the confidence about being able to support and hold children in the correct fashion. And I still do that to this day. I still randomly turn up, go and support the instructors, and if there's anything that I think is needed, it's about being able to balance out the change but without feeling as if you're enforcing that change upon them.
When it comes to swimming teachers, you obviously worked with hundreds, maybe thousands in your career. What are the 3 best qualities that you look for in a swimming teacher?
The first thing is personality. I think they need to have an outgoing personality, empathy, and understanding that connection that they have with their client base and not trying to make them do things that they're not capable of doing. And then I think the last thing is an understanding of the skills that they're actually given. There's no point in putting somebody in there if they don't know how to teach. And I look at 2 different types of swimming teachers. There's the ones that are coming out of swimming as competitive swimmers, who are very, very knowledgeable about how to connect to the water and make themselves travel in the water. And I think they're really good. They need a little bit of sport and education and being able to transfer that practical knowledge into a theoretical delivery. And then I also look then at the mature woman who's maybe 35 plus, who's maybe got a child, maybe 2 children, is now looking for something to do. They're very committed in what they do. And you tend to get a lot more balance. You get a nice mix of the young people coming in who are wanting to do this as maybe part of the university. And then you've got this stability of an adult who's there, who's got a little bit more life experience and can balance out the nice programme behind them. So I think the 3 things are very key to being able to have a good programme, but also see it progress as well.
How do you motivate your staff coming in, week out, doing the kind of same lessons? How do you, keep it interesting and try and keep them on board? Because having continuity for the kids is so important.
I think that the thing that I've done over the years is that we've had one member of staff with us now for 10 years. There's always been challenges put in their way so that they feel as if they're connected, but it then gives the teacher a degree of responsibility around who they're teaching. And it also feels as if they're part of the business rather than just being told all the time.
What do you feel parents can do outside of lessons to help facilitate progress?
I think initially is watch at least half a dozen of the lessons and just let them experience that. They'll see the natural progression starting to formulate through that playtime that they have with the family. And then if they're not able to do that, then put them in the bath increase the depth of the bath, obviously be supervised of course, but increase the depth of the bath and give them some practices about submersion and breath control, because that's obviously ultimately important for swimming. And then also teach them things like sliding down the back of the bath so that their body then starts to elevate through the natural buoyancy within the water. And both on the front and the back, and it has a massive increase in their confidence because then they realise that the water's actually supportive. I always base my lessons, particularly with children and with some adults, based on where their confidence levels are in the psychological state. It's actually teaching them to do what our parents did for us. When we were born, we were taught to sit up. We were taught to engage with noise. So I do quite a lot of sensory input teaching as well as actual physical movement. And then I get them to walk through the water, and albeit it's a bit like a spaceman, but at the same time it gives them an understanding about the quality of the water. And the balance is the only thing that we can't teach in water. We can teach how to be buoyant because we can show them a buoyancy position, but we can't teach them to be balanced. That understanding has a massive impact, and you can get children to swim very, very quickly.
You've obviously have many years of experience in this. What 3 key pointers would you give to those swimming teachers looking to take that next step?
I think the first one is identify your market. If you're looking to get into the high-end market, then you need to make sure that you're very structured. Not that there's an expectation that there's going to be anything less from the bottom end of the market, but if you're trying to provide a premium service, you need to be very clear on who that premium service is going to, and being able to then have the resources to be able to do that. Have a good marketing plan. Because I think a lot of the things that happen today is that, I'm going to go and set up a swim school tomorrow. And I think if I put it on Facebook, it's going to have an effect. It took us quite a number of years, but we've now got 42,000 people that follow us on social media. But that's taken years and years of effort. But knowing what that marketing plan looks like, not just saying, I'm going to put a flyer through somebody's door, because the percentage of people that actually use that flyer, if you put 100 out, you might get 1 person comes back. You might get 3. At a lucky, you might get 4. So if you base that around, you've got 10,000 flyers going out, you've not really got the value of a swim school. I think the last thing I would make sure that you do is have the correct price point for your market base. I'm probably one of the most expensive swimming teachers in Scotland at the moment, which I don't mind being. But then if you look at the middle section of that market where you've got the £20 lesson, then you can get reams and reams of people coming your way. But does the value of that £20 actually demonstrate the value of delivery? And the reputation of what the value behind that is what grows your business. And you can do as much marketing, you can do as much preparation you like, but unless you have that in the right place, then it won't make any difference because it will just dissolve very quickly.
Next time, I'll be speaking to Dr. Francois Friedman, an anthropologist at the University of Cambridge, yoga teacher, and she has conducted some pioneering research on baby swimming with tribes in the Amazon rainforest. Make sure you click subscribe on our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram for the latest news, videos, and competitions. See you soon.